here's where the threat comes in. They were talking about reorganizing the way the playoff works. And he said, if we're going to go back to square one on that and take a step back from the model that was introduced, I think we should rethink the automatic bids as well.
Oh, I like it.
So basically...
Oh, wow, that's stirring it up just a little bit.
And think about what he's getting at. All right, so like there's 5 or 6 conference champions that like would get an at-large spot in the 8-team playoff, and then the other 2 would be play-in team or at-large teams. Clearly what he's saying is, hey...
we should be able to get a few more spots.
Yes, exactly. You go ahead and knock off the ACC getting an automatic berth or the Pac-12 getting an automatic berth. We can go ahead and add some more of our teams in there. We can go ahead and add our second and third tier teams, which as a Texas A&M fan, and I understand our lot in the world, we fit right into that category. Is he's saying, oh, no. We have the best conference, so we would like more say. With this, how nervous are you if you're any of these other conferences besides the SEC and Big Ten right now?
I mean, you have no power when it comes to the discussion, right? Like if they say they want something and you're like, well, that's really going to affect us badly, you have no power. You really have no leg to stand on because they have the money and everything to go along with it. So when it comes to nerves, I'm trying to figure out how to get in their pocket a little bit and say, okay, how can we work together to ensure that you don't, kind of like all the surrounding states in Texas when it comes to gambling. Hey, what can we do so that you don't do this to us, so that we can continue to thrive in this manner?
I think what you're talking about, SEC and Big Ten have all the power because here's the deal. Out of all the other schools in the country that aren't in those 2 conferences, if you took the top 20 schools that aren't in that conference or the other conference, and you say, we're going to form one other conference to compete with the SEC and to compete with the Big Ten, all 20 teams would say, all right, let's do it. Unless they ask us to go to those 2 conferences, because then we're out of this 20-team conference, right? So if you ask Clemson and Florida State and Texas Tech, and I know I'm throwing Texas Tech in there, but you ask the Arizona 2 schools, and they're all going to be like, yeah, we need to form a 20-team super conference to compete with the SEC and the Big Ten. The problem is, out of those 20 teams that decided to do that, as soon as they get an offer from the SEC or Big Ten, they're out of that new super conference they tried to create to compete with the SEC and the Big Ten.
Which is why I have to admit I'm a little surprised that the Big 12 and Pac-12 said they're not going to partner up. And I don't know like what all went into that, but I am surprised to hear that they wouldn't be like, hey, you're dying. We're dying.
Let's die together.
Yeah, well, or maybe we could save each other.
Let's die together.
Maybe, I don't know if this is like a Thelma and Louise situation.
Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, or we could figure out a way to solve
the potion.
I mean, what do they have to sell at that point, though? In
strength
both
in numbers that is the only thing.
Yeah, I think they're both kind of looking at it going, at some point, some of these others are going to be picked up elsewhere. But I think it would be more die together than anything because the SEC is plucked the strongest ones.
Because how many, and I'm seriously asking for the people listening right now, how many teams matter that are going to be left in those 2 conferences? Because I know the other day Mike Gundy...
You mean out of the... Oh, you're talking about Big 10 or Big 12,
the Big 12 and the Pac-12
12.
once the defections happen. I get it. God bless him. Mike Gundy was like, hey, we got a brand here at Oklahoma State. I guess maybe...
Not really. Sorry. I like in Oklahoma State, in Stillwater.
Yeah.
You do?
Nationally.
And nationally, you're known as, man, they can really hum the ball down the field. They have a cooking offense occasionally. And as long as OU's not in their way, or as long as Texas isn't in their way, or as, one of those pop-up teams out of nowhere, they're going to be good and they're going to be considered in the mix. But they have to prove it on the bigger stage.
And that's the thing that I'm trying to figure out is some people just take a look at this from just a winning perspective. That is not always enough. Like, it's the same thing with Notre Dame. Notre Dame and Texas are the Dallas Cowboys of college football. They don't win when it matters the most. Yes, I know but I'm saying consistently they're overhyped and they underperform, but they are still 2 of the biggest brands in college football. So much so that Notre Dame is like, we want $75 million to stay independent. Otherwise, they might bolt. to one of these conferences. It's not always just winning, or else I saw Baylor. Some people were saying Baylor matters. Not on the national scale like you would think, given the success that they have had. And they have had that success. I wonder about Oregon, just because they do have the Nike brand and money behind them. But other than that, like, who is it? It's not Arizona. It's not Colorado. It's not Cal. I am
kind of curious how, with the NIL, how it can change, because if TCU is able to dig deep into some pockets,
sure,
and say, you know what, we finally we're gonna recruit a very different way than we have for a long time. Would that put them there? Would that put them in that? They still have to. There's so much.
How much money do you think that would take?
100. I mean, for them, it's Texas at 170 million. Is that what their football program?
Something like that.
But so I thought you were talking about like paying players.
You're gonna
$50 million a year. If I gave out $50 million a year, would TCU become a top 10 school?
You tell me, because I'll give you the breakdown of what Tech is doing, and we have actual numbers by this.
Good. Thank you.
So they have signed. Texas Tech has agreed to a deal with the Matador Club. They'll have 1 year, $25,000 contracts for 100 of their football players. Okay. So we're talking about $2.5 million. I think it needs to add at least one more zero. So now you're saying each football player gets $250,000, but now you're talking about $25 million. So like, that's the ballpark that you have to play in, because that's really cool. If you're going to Texas Tech, I'd be stoked about that, but that's not going to make the nation go, wow.
Yeah.
I guess too hey, we're giving the guy who's never going to play a single down when he's here for the whole time $25,000. Sure. And I get why they're doing that to try to make it fair. To me, that's stupid. Like,
yeah,
the 10th offensive lineman on your team. No, you got a scholarship. You're not that good. Sorry. I'm going to take that number down if I'm the Matador Club. Now, I get that's more of a university type of deal, but I'm going to be like, you know what? If we have $2.5 million to spend per year, let's give that to what we think are the 10 best recruits.
Yeah,
now I'm at $250,000 for 10 players.
I need my recruiters to say, I need this much to go get Eric Dickerson.
Okay.
You know, I need that guy that is what SMU had then. That he's the deep pocket guy. I need that if you're going to go to that next stratosphere, you have to have that deep pocket guy that says, I have that already built in. I'm ready to go.
Okay, that's a great point, because take a look at what Ohio State's doing to what you think is the better strategy. Texas Tech, everybody gets $25,000. Rock on. Ohio State created they have a third party called the Foundation. Is for CJ Stroud, Travion Henderson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Denzel Burke, $550,000 for those four.
Yep. But I also have another foundation-ish kind of place that's paying for the other guys, and they're not just some sloughs that I got out of nowhere, too. They're going to be quality players on my team. They're just making a little bit less. You know, it's just very similar to what you see in the NFL. Your offensive linemen don't make as much as the quarterback. And like you got to figure out how to get that money and who's going to be giving you that money and where the benefit is to them also, because they see it. When they're doing this NIL stuff, they're not just doing it so that they can donate. They're doing it because they're going to get some benefit off of it too.
Yes. And yes, that's a great point, because I was thinking about in terms of like blue chips, which is shockingly accurate when it comes to today's sports scene, is you're going to be the guy that kept CJ Stroud at Ohio State for another year. Like, I don't think that's going to happen, but like if you were, oh my God, people would freaking love you.
My VIP access is like today.
Yes.